Hi, today we're going to be converting from the MAX receiver over to your new Dial Global satellite receiver. We have two units here. The MAX receiver is already connected. We've got the Dial Global receiver mounted below. The first thing we're going to do before we make any wiring changes is remove power from both receivers. As you can see, we are currently plugged in with the MAX receiver on the left-hand side, and we'll go ahead and remove that plug. And now it's safe to go ahead and make your wiring changes. Your good news is that the audio wiring is compatible between these new receivers. So if you want to move your audio for TRN1 from channel 1, you just simply unplug it from the MAX receiver. Again, it's located right here where it says audio channel 1, down to your new location on the Dial Global receiver, audio 1. And that's it. You have gone ahead and made that. The pin-for-pin compatibility makes the transfer easily. The Dial Global receiver is going to require an internet connection to communicate back to the network, so disconnect your cable, your Ethernet cable that should be connected to your network from your MAX receiver. And you have two choices with the Dial Global receiver. There is a port on top marked WAN with a W. That is the Wide Area Network connection, and that should be used if you're connecting directly to the public internet. It is outbound communications only and offers your receiver security should you be on the public internet. If you're connecting it inside a firewall, then you'd want to go ahead and connect with the lower of the two connectors, the LAN, Local Area Network connection. You will then be able to browse with a web browser from your PC to the receiver's IP address and check status. I'm behind a firewall, so I'll go ahead and plug into the lower port, which is LAN. Both operate correctly to communicate back with the network, so it's just purely a function of how your security is configured in your radio station. Then you want to go ahead and move your connection from your satellite dish, which is currently on the right-hand side of the MAX receiver. We'll just unscrew that. And it connects over here to RFN on the Dial Global receiver. I always leave coax connectors finger tight because you don't want to over tighten them and damage the connector. This leaves us with the relays, which are currently connected via a DB15 connector on the MAX receiver. As you can see on the Dial Global receiver, this is a DB37. So your easiest way to go ahead and make the transition would be to take a look at your pinouts and go ahead and cut off your cable. Included with your receiver should be a connector package, which consists of 3 audio connectors and 2 relay connectors, and a staple, and blood. The pinout used for the Dial Global receiver is the standard relay pinouts used in the industry that most people are familiar with. There is one improvement made in the Dial receiver, and that is the commons of the relays are ganged together so that you don't have to get out the soldering iron and blob them together or run jumper connectors from one to one. If by any chance you're using an automation system that requires individual commons, which is extremely rare, contact Dial Global Operations for assistance. Their number should be in your box. We went ahead and removed our MAX receiver. As you saw before I cut my finger, we went ahead and cut off the relays from the DB15, and we opened up the bag that contained the included DB37s that came with your receiver. What I'm going to do now is just show you very quickly how to connect the relays, and if you're not comfortable with this, contact the Society of Broadcast Engineers, and they can refer you to a local engineer in your area. They're available at www.sbe.org. And again, if you're not comfortable doing this, there are people that can help. Also, if you have any questions, you can contact Dial Global Network Operations 24/7 at the number included in your receiver, and they will be happy to help you. Okay, since I cut off the connector, I do need to strip back. In the example network that I'm connecting, we have 3 relays and a common. So the pinouts for the relays are in your instructions, but relay 1 is on pin 1, which is the first pin on this connector. Relay 2 on pin 2 and relay 3 on pin 3. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the commons are ganged, so I'm just going to connect the common for my relay to pin 20. I've stripped off my wire at this point. Go ahead and twist it so that it's all nice and snug. Everybody has their own way, I think, of doing DB connectors. A lot of people have put in satellite receivers, are pretty familiar with these, and have developed their own tips and tricks. The methods that we're showing by no means are meant to be the only way to do this. There are companies that make crimpable DB connectors, which are available. There are also companies that make screw terminal types. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tin this wire and get it ready. Now, tinning the wire just simply means I'm going to take my soldering iron and get a little solder on the wire. Okay, so now is the point where we're going to go ahead and make the solder connection to the 3 cups. 1, 2, okay, so to make our connection, we will just go ahead and heat up the first pin, slide our wire in, and 1 is connected. My second relay is green, so I'll go ahead and connect that to pin 2. My third relay is red. Third relay goes to pin 3. And then the last connection I'm going to make is common. Just flip the connector over. I'm going for pin 20, which is directly below 1. So again, we just fill the cup with solder. And now we are connected. Now that we're done wiring our connector, we simply just need to attach it to the receiver. On the Dial Global receiver, all the top connectors are channel 1, the bottom connectors are used for channel 2. So we'll simply take our DB37, push it into the receiver. At this point, we're done making connections, so we can connect power to the receiver. Welcome back. Now that we've made all of our connections to the receiver, we're ready to go ahead and configure it before we can call and get our authorization. The receiver has keypad buttons in the middle here, as well as LED displays and an LCD telling you what's going on. So what we have to do is actually connect this receiver to the internet before we call for our authorization. To do that, we'll have to set our IP address. You'll just go ahead and, using your right arrow, click it twice, go to Unit Setup. Press Enter, right arrow, and you end up on IP Setup. I'm going to press the Enter button now. And since I made my connection, remember on the back of the receiver we had 2 connections, LAN settings and WAN. I'm using LAN, so I'm in the correct place. If I had connected to that upper jack, then I'll go ahead and hit the right arrow, and I'll be on WAN IP settings. But again, we're in the right place, so I'm going to hit left arrow to go right back to where I started. LAN IP settings. Press Enter. We're going to go ahead and set a static address. If I wanted to change to a DHCP, which means that your network automatically assigns an address, you press Enter. You'll notice it's flashing. Change over to DHCP and press Enter. That's all you need to do if you're going to have your network assignment address. You prefer static because that way you can browse to the receiver and check its operation. So we'll go ahead and press enter. Notice we're flashing. Go ahead and hit right arrow, back to static again. Then from there we just right arrow, and here's our IP address. We go ahead and press enter, and for each digit you hit up or down to get the number that you want. Once completed, right arrow, go to the next digit, up and down until you have the correct address. Once you're done with all of your digits, press enter. Right arrow again, and you follow the same process for your net mask. And then right arrow and follow the same process again for your gateway. If everything is correctly configured, you should now be able to connect to the internet, and you should be able to, you'll be able to contact the Dow Global Network Operations Center 24/7 to get your receiver authorized. They will, once they authorize you, they will set your receiver to the correct channels. They'll also load any record and playbacks on your receiver that you need. To authorize your receiver, call 720-873-5177. Again, that number 720-873-5177.